Welcome to Shameless Leadership. I'm your host, Sarah Dean. This show is for women leaders who are committed to advancing both their own leadership and the leadership of those around them. In each episode, I offer practical strategies and inspiring stories to help you become a more confident, compassionate, and curious leader. The truth is, you were born to lead. So let's start now, together. Hello, Shameless Leaders. In this episode of Shameless Leadership, I'm talking to Tonya Roberts about authenticity and vulnerability in leadership. Tonya Roberts is the CEO of Harmony Consulting Group, where she transforms growth-focused organizations into high-performing businesses as a fractional COO and HR consultant. Drawing from 18 plus years of experience across 30 countries, she helps companies scale operations, build inclusive cultures, and develop leadership teams that drive growth. I loved this conversation with Tonya. I love talking about authentic leadership and vulnerability and how it can amplify our leadership rather than hold us back. And so when we think about being more authentic in our leadership, it really is thinking through, how can I be vulnerable in a way that makes me better as a leader, that makes people want to walk alongside me, that makes people feel safe around me, and also that allows people to do their greatest work because of the authentic way that I show up, because of the way that I can model vulnerability in a way that allows other people to be vulnerable enough to do their best work, because we know that vulnerability is required to do our best work. So listen into Tonya share her pivotal moment of inviting women to be vulnerable in order to find their own form of authentic leadership. Why leaders need to be real people to the people that they lead. How being vulnerable as a single Black mom impacted her ability to be a more authentic leader. Why leaders need to be able to see and hear what is and is not being said. Maybe more importantly, the what is not being said part. How she made herself fit the mold of being a quote unquote good leader for many years and then broke the mold to find her authentic voice and a higher level of success. And how to get what you need as a woman leader in order to thrive in any given role. This was a fantastic conversation. I know you're going to leave feeling inspired and also feeling challenged to be a little more authentic and maybe a little bit more vulnerable in your own leadership. So with all that, please join me in welcoming Tonya Roberts to Shameless Leadership. Tonya, welcome to Shameless Leadership. I'm so excited to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
I was super excited about this conversation because I opened up kind of my agenda for today and what I needed to do. And I literally sat down right before we hopped on here and recorded an episode about being authentic with your voice in your leadership. And then I was reviewing our notes for what we were going to be talking about. And I was like, this is all so perfectly aligned. So my head is just all in authentic leadership today. So I'm very excited to dig into this conversation.
Love that. I was just listening to your podcast on masking.
Oh,
I was like, oh, that's so good. So I'm excited too.
Oh, good. When I think about authentic leadership, I think about, and maybe you have a story or experience with this, I think about as a younger leader, and especially as a younger entrepreneur, I would often try to do things that I saw other people doing. So I'm like, oh, well, this person who's been in this world a little longer than me is doing it this way, so I should try to do it that way. And there was times when I was like, I should do it the way like this 45-year-old dude is doing it. And I would try that on and be like, I'm pretty sure this is not for me. So
Yeah.
I think what's great as we get older, especially as women get older, is we learn that we can notice what other people are doing, but we don't have to necessarily adopt like what the 45-year-old white male is doing in order
Right.
to find our own voices. So I'm curious if you've had experiences like that too, where you've gone from, trying to emulate someone else's authentic leadership into recognizing like, oh, wait, no, that's not me. I need to do this my way.
Oh my gosh, so many stories. Right? Like I'm in my 40s now, so I'm like, it is what it is, right? I'm going to be
Right.
who I am, but it was not always this way.
Yeah.
And how I realized that was actually a former coworker said, you're very measured. And I'm like, what does he mean by measured? He's like, we can't read you. We don't know who you are. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I had been coming from big consulting, trying to do all the things that I see other people doing, which was so inauthentic to me, not showing up at being vulnerable. I was a single mom for most of my girls' life. And I was just like, just keep your job, do your work as efficiently as possible, and just make it through the day. And then I got in my mid-30s and I was like, this is not working anymore. And I was stressed out. And so I just said, you know what, take me as I am, and I'm just going to show up as myself. And people really appreciated that. And they started emulating it and giving themselves permission to also do the same thing because I'm a Black woman. I'm not showing up as a 40-something-year-old white male. It's just that's
Yeah.
not who I am. We don't have the same experiences. Even you as a white female,
Hmm.
you don't have the same experiences as the white male. And it's like, stop trying so hard to be someone else.
Right.
Just
Right.
be you. And it is
And
okay.
also the people I'm assuming the people that you want to attract and the people I want to attract, I don't want to attract the people who want to work with someone who's different than me. I want to attract the people
No.
that are going to be fun for me to work with. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like if it's not fun, I don't want to do it.
exactly. Exactly. So was there a pivotal moment that shaped your understanding around what authentic leadership really means for you?
Yeah, actually, so I used to teach leadership. Well, I still do, but I teach leadership development courses, and I had put on a 3-day multi-phase program for leaders at this government agency that I was working with, and part of that was on communications, servant leadership, and then at the end of it, they had to do a speech, like a TED Talk style speech, and they had to get vulnerable. The thing that I was really trying to get through to this group was, the old way of leadership of leaving your personal life at the door and not bringing it in, like that's dead. You need to actually get vulnerable. You need to be able to show people that you're relatable. And so it was the last day of the course at the end when everyone was doing their speeches. And I had one woman who was like, this has been amazing. I never thought that I would be sharing about my background and all of the adversity that I faced. And thank you so much for allowing me to let those walls down. And she cried and I cried and it was a beautiful moment. And what I learned from that was one, trust my gut. Because I knew
Yeah.
the old way of doing things wasn't great. And even though this group of people were um some even 10, 20 years older than me, and that's always something that I always have to face and say, "Look, guys, I know I look really young. However, I've
Yeah.
been doing this for a long time." Just to kind of build that credibility up front, but that was reinforcement that show up as who you are, and that's enough, and it's okay, and be that role model for other people to do it as well.
I love that. I also think that we have to go first. We have to model that.
Mhm.
And so modeling vulnerability, when we can model vulnerability and show what that looks like for us, and how that has been helpful for us, then it gives other people permission to drop their mask and be able to do the same. But we can't expect people to model vulnerability or really show up as their truest selves, especially if that feels really vulnerable to them, if we're not doing the same. So if we're super buttoned up, but we're like, hey, no, like let your guard down, like that doesn't feel safe. And
Right.
so being able to create a space where people can be vulnerable is like its whole own skill set. But that is absolutely the place where people get to then find that connection to their inner voice, which is often quieted, especially if you're a woman, especially if you're a person of color, especially if you carry any sort of marginalized identity. We mentioned, or you mentioned masking at the beginning. We've been so conditioned to mask who we are that it can take a minute to tap into who we authentically are, because we are
Mhm.
often not in spaces where there's a permission or invitation to play with exposing those parts of ourselves.
Right, right. Or you've been traumatized. You tried it once and
Yeah.
you had a negative experience and you're like, never again. You have to
Yes.
get over that.
Right, right. And understandably so. Like, I would never encourage someone to go be vulnerable in a place where they have maybe not experienced safety in the past, or
Mm.
where there might be harm done. That would also not be good
Right,
leadership, to
right.
just be like, be vulnerable everywhere. Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
You say that leaders need to show up as real people to build trust.
Mhm.
And talk a little bit more about that. That goes right hand in hand with vulnerability. And maybe you could even have a personal example of a time when you've been vulnerable as a leader that could help our listeners.
Sure. So I say that because oftentimes, especially when you're newer in your career and you look at your leaders and they are these kings and queens that you've put up on a pedestal, right?
Yeah.
You didn't see their journey. You didn't see the struggle. You just see them for where they are right now. And same as we see people, influencers online, right? And so you think that they can do no wrong and everything that you do is a mistake, right? And
Yeah.
so you don't see them as a person. Um, I remember back in 2019, and my oldest daughter, had tore her ACL. It was her freshman year in high school. She tore her
Oh,
ACL, and I was on a sort of stressful project, but I was used to that pace, so not too stressful. But being a mom took a lot more from me, helping her get through the doctor's appointments and all the extra things, along with my job. It was starting to weigh on me, and I was hiding, or I was masking it as best as I could, and
yeah.
I was failing miserably, to be honest, Sarah.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
That's a
And I
lot.
remember sitting in a meeting, with the other leaders on the project that I was on, and it was probably the week before my daughter was about to have surgery, and I'm just, like, thinking, "She's gonna have physical therapy multiple days a week. I still got this
Yeah.
job. Like, how am I gonna do this?" And so I just said, "You guys, I know we talked about the project work, but this is what's going on in my life."
Yeah.
And I was like, "My kid is having surgery. I don't know what to do. I'm a single mom. Like, how do you mean? Has anyone experienced this? What help do we have?" And everyone, to my surprise and my delight, just stopped and was like, "We have FMLA. You need to call this number, do this. Here's the paperwork you need." And literally, I walked out of that meeting, hopped in my car, was actually getting ready to go to a doctor's appointment with my daughter, called the number, got all the information, got the paperwork filled out by my doctor that day. And then I was able to take 3 months off of work
Oh my gosh.
to just
Amazing.
be mom and be a support system. And so it was funny because there was this managing director who also had children that are the same age as my daughter. And, I had to go around and let everyone know, "Hey, I'm going to be gone for 3 months, but this is what's going on." And he was just like, "How would you have done it if you did not have the ability to take the 3 months off?" And I looked at him and I'm like, "Well, I would have just figured it out, just like I do anything else." But
Right?
like, what do you mean? What would I have done? I would have figured it out, but I'm so glad that I didn't have to.
Uh-huh.
I was able to take that time, and I would never have gotten that if I wasn't vulnerable enough to say, "This is what's going on." And I think also in sharing that back with my team afterwards, it gave them a space to say, "Hey, we can take care of ourselves. The work will still be there. And this is an organization that does support our work life harmony and supports us in all things that we need."
So important. So important. I want to put together a couple different pieces of things that you've shared, which I think will help our audience connect some dots. So you've mentioned primarily being a single mom, raising, do you have one daughter or two daughters?
Have to.
Two daughters.
Mhm.
So primarily single mom, raising two daughters. You're a Black woman. Your ability or your opportunity to leverage your authentic leadership is going to look so different than so many other people's ability to leverage their authentic leadership. I'm
Mhm.
curious for you how that has evolved over time in terms of owning all these components of your identity as part of your
Mhm.
story, and how that has amplified your leadership, and what that journey has been like.
Yeah, I think there's so many things to unpack here. I think being a Black woman coming from a very working class family, my parents met when they were both in the army. I grew up
Mm,
mostly in the military life. Um, and then my mom became a civil servant, for the federal government. And so we had very humble beginnings,
yeah.
but we were always taught, go to school, get good grades, get a good job. And so I was following the plan. Right. And then I met who I thought was going to be the person I'd be with forever. And we had children very young, and then it didn't work out. Right. But I had started my career, and was in this male dominated environment that was very competitive and fast paced. And all I knew was, do what you're told, don't be a problem, get the job done.
Mm.
And so I did that for many, many years. And I suffered a little bit because of it, right? Like dealt with the imposter syndrome. I dealt with health issues and the burnout and all that came with it. But I also got some lessons learned. I found my voice. I figured out how to advocate for myself. I figured out how to take ownership of my career. I learned to be a mentor to other women and show them that, hey, you don't have to live this way that you've seen, and mask and do all these other things. You can be yourself. If you're a single mom, like, okay, guess what? You are an amazing organizer. You're an
Yeah,
amazing project
yes.
manager. right?
Yes.
Like you're the COO of your household. And so I never looked at it as a setback or something to just like wallow in pity. Like I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor.
Right.
I'm a victor. And so I use it to my strength and I focused on the lessons learned and my superpowers and I just leaned in on those. And I think the more that I became okay showing up authentically, the easier things became.
Yeah, I love that. I think that there's risks in showing up as our authentic self, especially if we are carrying identities that aren't always appreciated, respected in society. And I also think that when we learn how to leverage those identities sometimes, like that's how we get into how we can really step into our greatest strengths
Mhm.
and find the places where we really want to be. And I was raised by a single mom, and whenever I get a new client or meet someone who's interested in working together in any capacity and they say they're a single mom, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you're my people, come here, like let's let's talk more.
Right.
And I have so much respect for anyone that leads with a layer of identity that is maybe commonly overlooked, commonly underestimated, because those components of our identity are the things that give us, and you said like that kind of I'm just going to figure it out mentality.
Mhm.
Like we are resourceful in ways that other people can't be. And I love that, some dude is like, well, what would you have done? You're a Black woman, single mom, like you've already done way harder things.
Right.
So
And
it's like
like,
not
what do
that
you
big of a
mean?
deal.
I figure it out. Like my
Right.
ethos is find a way or make a way. Like that is
Yeah.
how I live my life to this
Right.
day. And I believe in faith. I know it's going to
Mhm.
work out. Why? Because I've done hard things and I've done
Right.
them well. So to me,
Yeah.
in that situation, I was like, okay, this is just one more thing.
Right. And that gives you, I think, strength, tenacity, resourcefulness, scrappiness that people who haven't had to work really hard or fight for things don't have. And so when things go sideways, when things get flipped upside down, it's much easier to be like, okay, well, I can figure this out too.
Hmm.
Which I think is, you never want to wish that people have to go through a lot of hard things.
Right.
But if you're someone who's been through a lot of hard things, you can figure anything out. You have the upper hand in so many situations because you're like, I've been here before, like a
Right.
million times. Not a big deal.
Yeah, and you just have to remind yourself of those things when you're in the moment and you're just sitting in
Yes.
your own mess.
Yeah.
And that can be hard, right? That's
Yeah.
you can start to spiral if you don't, but you have to look in and remember and be like, I know who the F I am.
Totally. Yeah.
and and that's just what it is, right? And know that this too shall pass, right? Like I'm no longer a single mom. My kids are thriving. They're amazing little people. One just got a full scholarship to her dream college. Like I did something
Congratulations.
well.
Yeah. You did very well.
Right.
Very
Like,
well.
okay. I may not have felt good in the moment, but
Right.
it all worked out in the end, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful for
Yeah.
what I've been through, right? Like things happen for you, not to you, and everything there is a lesson. And I try to lean on the positive side. I remember I had one person who used to tell me, "You're Miss Silver Lining," because that was my thing. I'm like, what's the silver lining here? What can we learn?
Right.
And
Right.
that has helped. That positive mindset has really helped me through some of those tougher times.
Yeah. I think it's a lot about collecting the right evidence. And I think in any situation, you can collect evidence that helps you or evidence that harms you. And so we can always collect evidence that, like, oh, hard things always happen to me, or like I have to work harder, or I haven't had the same opportunity. Like we can always collect evidence to support whatever belief we want to uphold. And if we collect the correct evidence, we can always be finding that's the silver lining that you just mentioned, but also finding that hope that we can hold on to in terms of like, this is where I've demonstrated tenacity, or this is where I've overcome adversity in the past, which means that I'm very capable of figuring out whatever's happening to me in this moment. And when we can start to collect that evidence, I think that we become so much more, I want to say invincible, but like we can have this mentality that like, there's nothing I can't do. That
Right.
doesn't mean that I'm not tired sometimes because I'm feeling like I'm having to do all the things, but,
Right.
but
So we have.
it's that I do feel like I've proven over and over, and I'm holding on to that evidence versus evidence that might hold me back or get me stuck in like, why me? It's always so hard, and those kinds of mindsets.
Right. Hmm.
How does your background in strategic consulting inform your approach to building people-centric cultures? Because as we've been talking about your individual identity and how that's contributed to your growth and your ability to find yourself in this position of really authentic leadership and finding your authentic voice,
Mhm.
you're one of many, many people. And when we're in corporate cultures, organizational cultures, we want everyone to have the same opportunity. So just like you got to develop your authentic leadership voice and your authentic way of doing things, how are we creating cultures where everyone within the system gets to do that?
Yeah. So when I started consulting about 20 years ago, I was working for Booz Allen Hamilton at the time. And if you've ever been in one of those big consulting firms, it is a machine, right? You
Yeah.
get so much training and you get so many opportunities to develop your technical skills and then go apply those with your clients. So I was doing strategic planning, I was doing operations and technology adoption projects and change management. And one of the common themes that I saw here was you can have these amazing systems and processes put in place, but the people have to execute them. And if you don't set the people up for success, the project is going to fail. And so I wanted to help the people, and I kind of pivot a little bit in my career to be more people focused. And what that meant was coming in and doing the change management, working with the leaders to make sure that their messages were on point, making sure that the people who would be implementing the change had the training that they needed, the job descriptions, understood what was going on and the impact to them. And later on, I started coaching as well. And so I looked at the people and really focused on them. I think when you do HR, human capital, or even operations, your job is to remember to put the people back in business or the heart back in business. And
Yeah.
that is so much in alignment with who I am. I'm empathetic. I like to bring people together. I like to see things to totality and completion. And so I want to make sure that, yes, we can have all these great fancy systems and processes, and the people know exactly how to use them. And that's kind of how my career has evolved over these years to really being focused on the operations and the human capital side of the house.
And
Mm.
what do you see happen in organizations that don't do that?
People are miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I've done focus groups and I've done interviews with people who have been in organizations that were not people centered.
Yeah.
And the people are just there, just doing their job. They're not connected to the organization. The organization isn't getting the best out of them. They, they're, as soon as they find another opportunity that looks better, they're out. Right?
Yep.
And literally they are miserable. I've had people cry
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
interviews with me, because they're just not happy, and that is no way to live. You spend so much time with the people at work, even if you're remote working, you spend so much time in the business that it needs to be a psychologically safe space. It needs to be a place where you feel like you belong, you feel like you, are appreciated and not a place that you regret going to every single day.
Absolutely. I had this really incredible opportunity yesterday. I was speaking for an organization that I've been working with over the past 3 years, and their leadership team has really grown and evolved over the last like 18 months or so. And so we went out to lunch. I did a training with them in the morning, and then we went out to lunch, and we were sitting around at lunch, and the woman who had hired most of the team was sitting at one end of the table with me, and everyone at the table started talking about where they were when they got the call that they were being hired to be on this team.
Mhm.
And so the woman sitting across from me, she's like, "Oh, I remember like when I called you and you were traveling in Italy." And everyone goes around and shares their story. And what was so impactful was how each of them, first of all, remembered where they were when they got the call, that they were so
Mhm.
excited. And
Mhm.
then that others of them kind of remembered like each other's stories a little bit. Like, "Oh, I remember when I heard that you were going to be the person coming in for this." And it was like from the very beginning of their journey and their working relationships, that they felt really connected, really excited, really grateful, very chosen for really specific reasons. And so their boss sitting across from me, she was saying, when I hire, I really hire on instinct. And so, and a couple of them had said like, I got the call and I was like driving down the street and I was worried I made a really bad impression. This other woman, I was on vacation and I felt really like didn't have it all together. And she said, but at that point, I had already given so much consideration to who you were as people that I just wanted you to be human in that moment. Like, I didn't care if you were driving carpool or off doing, gallivanting in Italy or whatever.
Mhm.
That moment was really about me getting to share really exciting news with you and getting to hear you be really excited and to hear them kind of share these stories, and then ending the whole conversation talking about how they just all felt like they were all meant to be on the same team and how it's so great every day getting to do the work that they do together. And I was just like, this is the dream.
Right,
Like,
right.
this is such a special thing. And it really takes them having, it takes having one leader who makes space for these kinds of relationships to be built, who brings people in with so much integrity and also so much intention. But then that they all are like holding each other in this really special way throughout. And I was like, this is what I just want to like, how do we help everyone do it this way? It was so beautiful.
It is. One place that I left, I remember speaking to one of the team members there, and we still stay in touch to this day. And she gave me I thought it was just the most beautiful compliment. And she just said, I realized how much you were the culture here. You made
Yeah.
sure that everyone knew what they were supposed to do. And on one part, I'm like, oh, thank you so much. But then also I felt bad because I'm like, well, what's happening now?
Exactly. Did the whole culture leave with me?
But that is so important. I'm very intentional about making sure that people feel valued. And part of
Yeah.
that is because I've been in places where I didn't feel seen, heard, or valued, right? And
Yeah.
I never wanted to be a part of someone's story that included that.
Mm.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
th when you work with me, I want you to feel seen, I want you to feel heard, I wanted you to feel like this was a mutually beneficial situation, feel that I cared and I was truly invested in your development as a person and as a professional, whether we continue to work together for the long run or a short-term period, it has to be a positive experience. That is important to me, and so I've heard so many stories of others where they had these negative experiences, and I'm like, I never want to be seen in that light.
Absolutely. And I think as much as it's whether it's horrible to be in some of those scenarios, and obviously hearing those stories can be really challenging. But I also think there's value in having those moments in our lived experience, in our careers, because it does make it so glaringly clear, like, I'm never going to be like that. I'm never going to
Mhm.
say it that way. I'm never going to do it that way. I'm never going to, like, when we have those experiences, as much as they can be horrendous in the moment, they can be really valuable for us to then integrate who we want to be as a leader, how we want to show up for people, how we want to build culture, how we want to do things a different way. And I think sometimes it takes those rough experiences to have to do that learning.
I agree, I agree. Have seen leaders who use the fear tactic before,
Hmm.
right? And
Weaponizing fear.
yeah, weaponizing fear, yelling at people, and I'm just
Oof.
like, no, we don't need to. Why do you think that that is the way? And I recognize that is your trauma, that is your upbringing. Something happened that showed you
Yeah.
this is the way, or maybe it's masking. Maybe it's these are the leaders that they worked with, and they show this is how they showed up as a leader, and you thought I need to do it too, and
Yeah.
okay, but not me.
Right.
And I have been in a situation where there was a leader that was yelling at someone, and I was like, not on my watch. And I went and not tattletelling, but I definitely escalated. Like,
Hmm.
if you're not gonna say anything and you're not gonna speak up for yourself, I will.
Yeah.
And let the leader know, like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. Not to our people, not to your people. It's not okay.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about empathy, and we've kind of been talking about the lack of empathy in the last couple of minutes here. People who have, low empathy, poor emotional intelligence, maybe poor emotional regulation.
Mhm.
Um, can we talk a little bit about the connection between empathy and business success that leaders might be missing? And
Mhm.
how do you see that at play?
Sure. I think when you are a leader that can see and hear what is not being said, right?
Yeah.
And for you to be able to do that, you have to get to know your team members as a person and not just for the work that they do or their role on the team member. So what I mean by that is, getting to know what they like, getting to know a little bit about who they surround themselves with. What are their skill sets? What are their career aspirations? What are some of their
Right.
personal aspirations that they want to share that with you? What does them being or having a good day look like? What does it look like when they're off their game and with even without them saying something is wrong here, and you're not judging them because they had a human moment,
Right.
right? And so taking that into your interactions with people and helping them to problem solve and be the support that they need in order to do their job better, because ultimately as a leader your success is dependent on the success of your team, right? It's not an individual sport, it's a team sport, right? And so being more in tune with the people that you work with helps you to have a better team, helps you show up as a leader that people want to work with and work for.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, I was just recording an episode on finding your authentic voice in leadership right before this. And one of the things I was talking about was being loud in leadership.
Mhm.
And I often am encouraging people to be louder in their leadership, but not necessarily like louder in volume and like be the person that's always yelling and screaming and taking up all the space, but finding that way that you can be loud in getting your values, your mission, your message across so that
Mhm.
you are calling people to action, that you are inspiring people to grow, that you are, motivating people to show up as their best and work alongside you and be collaborative. And I think sometimes that when we think about leadership, we think about, I have to take up more space just to take up space, or I have to be louder just to be louder. I have to be
Mhm.
seen doing and saying certain things just to be seen doing and saying them, rather than checking our ego and stepping back from our own insecurity and looking at how are we building something where our volume is conveyed in the work that other people do when they're on our team or when they're working beside us. And that is something I think that's nuanced and takes time and maturity and a ton of empathy and
Mhm.
support and development. But I think that path of leadership is where we often aren't maybe as loud and shiny, but our impact and the ripples are greater, and it feels really, really good and rewarding.
Yeah, I love that, being loud in your leadership style for sure, right? Because just because you're the loudest person in the room it doesn't mean that you're the most respected or
Right.
that you are right,
Right.
and if you are that empathetic leader or that servant leader or just that just genuine good person, people don't want to embarrass you. They want to
Yeah.
do things that continue to make you look good,
Yeah.
right? And so if you're mentoring and you're coaching and you're pouring into your people, it is going to reflect in the work that they do. It is going to reflect in how they show up even when you're not around. And so demonstrating that and being the leader, even the leader that you wish you had, right? Even if you had
Yes.
horrible examples of leadership, it was enough to say, I'm not going to do that again, or I will
Uh-huh.
never be that person. I'm going to show up in the opposite way. And so
Yeah.
you take that into when you have that opportunity to be that leader. I don't care
Uh-huh.
if it means you're the team leader, you're the project leader, or you're in the C suite. What type of leader did you need to have when you were that brand new person fresh out of college or what, brand new in your career? What did you need? And remind yourself of that sometimes and then show up as that person because
Yeah.
someone is in the situation that you were in before.
Totally. I sometimes share when I'm speaking, the story. My first job in high school, I worked in a doctor's office, and my boss, the office manager, every single day when I walked in, she was so excited to see me. And it was like I was like the head doctor. Like I was like the chief resident. I mean, every day, just Sarah, how are you? What's going on? We're so glad you're here. And then I got so that was my job through high school. I go to college, I get my first job in college, and total opposite experience. This guy, Ross, who like wouldn't make eye contact, never said hi to me. And I was like, he obviously hates me. He never says hi. He never compliments me. He never tells me I'm doing a good job. And my mom at one point was like, you should just go in and ask Ross what you should just tell him what you're thinking. Like, just go let him know, like, hey, I just want to know how I'm doing. You haven't really given me any feedback. Oh my God. I went into his office one day and I was like, hey, and I was so timid and nervous because he was so unapproachable. I was like, hey, I just wanted to check in. Like, you haven't really given me any feedback. And I'm just curious, like, am I doing a good job? And I could just tell, like, he was staring at me like totally like blank stare. And I was like, this is not going to go well. And he was like, well, I guess you're doing fine. And I was so embarrassed and so uncomfortable and like felt so stupid. But it stuck with me that like I want to be my first boss's name was Karen. I was like, I always want to be like Karen. Like, I want to be the person that's like, we're so happy that you're here and you're an important member of the team. And like, you're just as important as everyone else, no matter how new you are, no matter your rank, your role, whatever. And I never want to be the person that's just like, why are you asking me that question? Like the whole Ross thing. And so I think that when we can create space for everyone to feel valued and when we can, again, regardless of your level of leadership, but just where like you are authentically excited to be around the people that you're around and that they feel valued when they're around you, it changes everything so dramatically and it makes the work more fun. It makes the work more approachable and more engaging. And it allows us to be in places where then our lights can really shine. Like you can bet that I was not concerned about impressing Ross or shining bright in front of him after that. I was just like, how quickly can I get out of this job? Like, can I, I'll get through this year, but like, I'm out after that.
Hmm. Absolutely. My parents taught me you treat everyone with respect, right?
Yeah.
And so when I went out into the working world, I spoke to the janitorial staff. I spoke to the
Yeah.
security guards. I spoke to everyone, just simple hi and a smile. And it was interesting to see that some people they weren't used to that. I'm like,
Mm,
oh, that's unfortunate, right? And
yeah.
some people they just really appreciated it, right? And it was just that was just normal. And so everyone got the same level of respect, whether you were the supervisor or you were the cleaning staff. You mattered. You had a
Yeah.
role to play here, and it was super, super important. And then also, there's benefits to it too. And this isn't why I did it. I was just genuinely respecting everyone. But when you need help from someone, you go to that person and they're happy to help you.
Yeah.
They're not looking at you like you're a problem and why are you bothering me? They're like, you know what? Latanya says hi to me every single day. Of course, I will get this thing for her, whatever
Absolutely.
you need. Right. And people pay attention to those things. And you just treat people how you want to be treated or how
Y-
they want to be treated.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about barriers specifically that impede women from finding their authentic leadership style or their authentic leadership voice. So can you talk a little bit about women's unique struggles in balancing professional expectations with authentic self-expression? And then what is advice that you give your coaching clients in this realm?
Hmm. So yeah, so some of the struggles are just showing up as who they really are in communicating what they need, right? So I
Yeah.
would ask you first, what is it that you need to succeed in this role? How can you thrive? If you are a caretaker, I think everyone should set boundaries and communicate their boundaries, number one. So if you're a caretaker and you need an hour in the afternoon to go pick up your kids from the bus stop and just check in with them, I don't know about if you're a caretaker, Sarah, but my kids like to
Yeah,
do
I
a
am.
daily download afterwards, and so we need 30
Yes.
minutes, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So
I need an hour. I have a
right.
talker.
Long-winded. So I need 3:30 to 4:30. I'm picking up my kids from the bus stop, and then I'll be back on at 4:30. If please schedule any meetings with me between these hours and these hours. I promise I'll get back to you, but from 3:30 to 4:30 is my time with my family. Communicating that, I think often we kind of live in that stigma of I can't show up as a mom and say I have other things going on in my life outside of work and I need to hide that piece to me. No,
Right.
absolutely not. There's a lot of caretakers, right? Whether you have little
Yeah.
kids, you're taking care of older people or whomever. We all have responsibilities outside of work. Maybe you're in school again or whatever it is or there's that workout class that you like to go to, and they only offer it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the most inconvenient
Totally.
time. But
Right.
communicate that, right? So one, figure out what you need to thrive, communicate that. And then if you are in a meeting and you are the only one with a differing opinion and you know
Right.
in your gut that everything you're hearing is not right, speak up. It is
Yeah.
okay to offer a different opinion. It is okay to be different from the crowd and trust that you're right. If you believe in your whole heart and soul that what I'm about to say is going to change the game, speak up and people will respect you. They may not like it that you challenge them, but
Right.
people will respect you because when that thing worked out, they're going to remember Sarah spoke up in that meeting. Even though everyone else said we need to go left, she said turn right and it worked out.
Right.
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 And so you talked earlier about building up that evidence.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to build up your evidence and remember who you are. Maybe you need to go before you go into that meeting where you know you're the only and
Right.
you listen to the music that gets you hyped before you go into that music so you have that extra boost of confidence. Do whatever you need to do to fully believe in who you are and speak up and say the things that you need to say.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, as we get ready to wrap up today, can you tell people about the ways that you work with folks, with individuals, with organizations, what that looks like, and where people can find you?
Sure. So I provide fractional chief operations officer or HR consulting support. I work with small business providers. So think your service providers, consultants, coaches, mostly females. I do work with some men too, but mostly women. And I help them streamline with ease through operational excellence and sustainable growth. Right. I want you to grow your business as big as you want to, and I want you to do it with ease and comfort and know that you're not just a business. And I want to put the systems and the structures in place to make that happen. You can connect with me on my website. It is harmonyconsultinggroup.org. And then you can find me on socials. I'm very active on LinkedIn under my name, Tonya Roberts. And then I also have a free Facebook community, the Harmony Ops Collective, and that is a
Nice.
place where owner operators or operator professionals can go in and just really get some tips and tools on how to streamline their operations, do things a little bit better, and service their clients.
That's called the Harmony Ops Collective.
Yeah, Harmony Ops Collective. So
Okay.
a Facebook group, if you just put in Harmony Ops, it should
Okay.
pop up.
We'll make sure we link to that. So we'll link to everything that you just said in the show notes. So if people go to sarahdean.com and over to the podcast link, you can find the episode with LaTonya and everything will be right there. Or wherever you're listening on, whatever platform you're on, go to Shameless Leadership, find the episode with LaTonya Roberts, and everything will be linked there as well. LaTonya, final question for you. How are you currently showing up as a shameless leader?
I'm just being me.
I mean, that's on brand.
That is, I'm just being me, unapologetically me, taking the time that I need, whether it's, hey, I need to work on this project really, really late, or I just need to take rest. I just took a week off and went to Brazil and just, I learned that you don't have to earn your rest. It is deserved and it is part of your business strategy. And so I'm a big proponent of your self-care. I'm speaking my mind, and that doesn't mean I'm being a butthole about it, but I'm just, if I know something is right, look, this is what it is. And everyone has an option to choose if they take it or not. And I'm just trusting myself more and more, which is
I love
a
it.
beautiful feeling at this age.
I was going to say, I feel like the self-trust that comes as we get into, I'm 49 now, but it's, oh my gosh, it's so nice.
You just don't care. You grow up and you hear, people get to a certain age and they just don't care anymore.
Right.
Like, I feel like I'm there. And I'm like,
Totally.
this is great. Why didn't I know this in my 20s and 30s?
Right? Like so many things are less important than we thought they were and so much less easily embarrassed.
Mm-hmm. I'm like,
if you're going to judge me, fine, go for it.
Yesterday, oh, okay. I just laugh and keep going, right? Like,
totally.
It's
totally.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, LaTonya, this has been so fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you and the work that you're doing in the world and the impact that you're having. It's so needed and necessary. So thank you for everything and for spending time with us today.
Thank you. It's been great.
Thank you for allowing me to spend time in your ear today. If you liked this episode, be sure to subscribe to this channel. To learn more about my speaking, training, and coaching services, visit sarahdean.com. That's SARADEAN. I would also love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn at sarahdean.com/LinkedIn or on Instagram at sarahdeanspeaks. I love hearing from my listeners. Thank you for showing up for yourself today. I see you, I hear you, and I'm holding space for you today and every single day.